Those convinced against their will are of the same opinion still. No one is going to just be completely overwhelmed by our incredible intellect. That's not going to be what changes them. What's going to change them is the realization that they themselves have to come through or come to, and that is done by building relationship, connecting with people, and handling that interaction the right way. And we'll get to that in here in just a minute. But we have to know the right stuff as well. As a Christian, I would say I would tell all people this, but if you're a Christian, I would say we should know what God says about these things. Even though we often say these things are political, politics has taken over our lives. Politics has expanded to include every single thing that happens in our society. And part of that's because we have a government that has its tentacles everywhere. And so it's hard to say, well, that's not political because the government is, putting its fingers over here and over there. But that's not the case. There's some things clearly that God has to say, the Bible has to say about some of these issues, some things that we can extrapolate, even if it doesn't directly say it, we can extrapolate it and say, well, maybe we should think about this way. Now, I'm not saying a theocracy. I'm just talking about the way that we deal with certain issues. Things like abortion. It would matter when life begins. Science, by the way, tells us unequivocally when that is. Things like the role of government, the nature of government. It's important that we understand human nature. As a Christian, God tells us unequivocally that we all have a sinful nature. There's no one good, no, not one. And so by recognizing that, we should set up a system like our founders did of checks and balances that say, hey, we're not going to trust that men are angels or that our government is going to be angels. We're going to make sure that we make it as hard as possible for there to be abuses. But ultimately, we've got to hold those people accountable who do abuse their authority. And we have not done that. We've abdicated that responsibility for decades here in this country. I would also say that we need to have a general understanding of the issues. Notice I said general. I don't think anybody needs to feel like they need to be an expert. I think general understanding from both sides.